And the next day he arrived and said, guys, I have good news and bad news. Good news, we have done some really smashing photos. So I went to a supermarket and surprise, surprise, there were no pumpkins. My idea was that I'm going to be at the location at 4 p.m. and at 4:05 I was already departing from home.
I do have a kind of hard time understanding why this isn't routine for you. Because in theory, when you're doing FurCPhotos, you're doing FurCPhotos.
Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Photographer's Cast. I'm FurCPhoto.
And I'm Pinsel, hello.
And the thing I would like to talk about today is perfectionism and the idea that photo shoot must be flawless. Because I've learned quite some while ago that it doesn't in an amazing way. I was assisting a professional photographer, and when I say professional, I mean the biggest kind of professional that is doing advertisement campaigns for big brands. And I was assisting him with about a dozen other people. We have been photographing for a whole day. He was doing something really huge. It involved cars and a lot of models, and he actually built a post-apo city that he could photograph in. And after the day of photography, I've learned a lot. Kind of guy can mess up and say, okay, I've messed up, we are starting over, so can I. And that kind of gets me to a story. I was recently photographing with pumpkins, Halloween photos. I believe I've sent you some photos from that.
Indeed, I've seen the photos. You sent them last week, if I'm not mistaken.
I will put them to the episode description for our listeners to take a look at. And the photo shoot went pretty fine, but I want to talk about what happened before it, because that's as important or maybe more important than the photography itself. So I pretty much carve pumpkins every year, and every year is exactly the same. I love them. They are shiny, they are orange. I use blue smoke, so there is color contrast. And every year I am too late to get them, and they are sold out, and I panic. So this year I vowed that I'm not going to mess up, that I'm going to start getting them in time. And of course, then there was like, I need to tidy up a little and I need to edit some photos and wash the dishes. And then it was suddenly 7 p.m. And the next day, when I was supposed to photo shoot, was national holiday. So the shops are going to be closed. So I went to a supermarket and surprise, surprise, there were no pumpkins. So I went to another supermarket and surprise, surprise, there were no pumpkins either. So at this point I was panicking and I've bought some buttersquashes. They are pretty horrible for carving because they are really tough. They resist a lot. But they are still better than nothing when you already have an assistant, or technically a little bit. I have two assistants, but neither confirmed that he's coming. So I was hoping that at least one of them will arrive, and I had two people that are going to wear my fursuits so I can photograph them. And I didn't have any pumpkins. So I've taken the buttersquashes and I was carrying them to the car. And on my way out of the shop, I've realized that they actually have a pumpkin. It was hidden in the corner of a shelf. And it was not a common pumpkin, it was a Halloween pumpkin. The difference is that it's about twice as expensive as a normal pumpkin. It was tiny, by the way, and it had an extremely ugly zombie sticker stuck to it. So I threw the sticker into the trash and I've bought the pumpkin. But I still only had one, and I was getting pretty desperate because at that point it was 8:10 p.m. and most of the shops were closed. And I was calling to several hobby markets, and one of them told me that they have two pumpkins. So I was going to another part of the city to a hobby market, wanting one pumpkin. I've got two because they said we only have two remaining, so please take them. So suddenly I had three pumpkins and two buttersquashes. Well, in the end, it worked out. And I've taken them home and I've decided to carve them the next day because what can wait a day longer. And of course, the next day it wasn't, well, carving was not going as poorly as I feared or as well as I was hoping. And also, I haven't checked up the location. I, again, I intended to go there, then something happened, I couldn't go. So I've decided that if friends are coming at 4:45, then I will be there at 4, and I will have 45 minutes. I will check out the location, and everything will be fine. And then, of course, I was carrying. It took longer than I expected. Then I was carrying stuff into my car because after doing that for 10 times, I still can't get used to the fact that it takes ages, because I was carrying 2 lights, box of small lights, big batteries, real light stands, smoke machine, FurCPhoto, red fabric that was dubbing as cloak, lanterns, pumpkins, everything. I had to go 3 times with 2 big bags. So my idea was that I'm going to be at the location at 4 p.m. and at 4:05 I was already departing from home. And I've arrived there at 4:45 sharp, and my friend arrived along with me. And he got out of the car, looked at me and said, "Who are you and what did you do with FurCPhoto?" Because this was the first time that I've arrived to a photo shoot on time. So I've told them that technically I'm there 45 minutes later, and he recognized me and said that it's okay. So we have quickly checked out the area. I've told him that maybe we are going to have 2 assistants and maybe 0. We will see. And then I've taken my camera back there, opened it, took my camera out, and realized that both of my memory cards are on my table at home.
Mhm.
So that was another moment of panic. And then, fortunately, I've forgotten a spare memory card in my backpack. I had no idea it is there. I was already getting ready to get into my car, drive home again. But fortunately, it worked out.
So lucky that you're that forgetful, I think.
Yes, that's one of my better qualities. Then at the next moment, I was giving my friend my bull costume, the fursuit that I'm going to photograph him in. And he took the food pause. He turned to me and says, "Seriously, again?" And I looked at them and I was like, "No, no, 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 no." Yeah, he was holding one paw that belonged to my hyena fursuit and one hoof that belonged to my bull fursuit, and both of them were right.
Oh,
So he spent whole photo shoot with his left foot in right shoe. Then I started setting up flashlights. They were not working, so I've replaced them with a stationary light. Then I've connected a set of small lights with a controller. Then I've pressed something and they started blinking. And I was like, okay, I know this problem and I know what to do. So I've tried the usual solution. It didn't work. So I've restarted the lights. They kept blinking. Eventually, I've repaired them to another controller, and that worked. And the funny thing is that at this point, I was pretty agitated because, of course, when stuff like this is happening, it's difficult to stay calm. But from this point on, suddenly everything starting to work. Assistant arrived. That was for one wonderful, and for another, I want to praise the assistants because they don't get much glory, but they are running up and down the stairs with a 5 kilograms heavy smoke machine, and I'm shouting at them faster, faster because I need them out of the frame.
Mhm.
Everything was working perfectly, and even one of my models, who is photographing with me a lot, said that he was surprised how smooth it was. And I actually have a feeling that maybe I'm starting to know what I'm doing. And in the end, I have some really marvelous photos.
So how does it relate to the impact of the professionalism and the fact that the professional, the real professional, was like, okay, let's do it all again because we don't like the results, or he doesn't like the results. You personally would not do any photo shoot again, right? Not even this huge photo shoot with all of, if I may say so, mistakes, to avoid swearing this time, and where everything went wrong in the lead up to it. You didn't just say, okay, we cancel it and move it to another date, move it to another time, or just decide that we just push through with everything that we have in the more or less expectation that things will go wrong again?
I have to say that my point is slightly different. I know where you are getting from, but no, this is the thing is that this is happening to me every time. So yeah, I panic, but I'm not thinking about canceling the photo shoot because yeah, business as usual. What I wanted to demonstrate is when you see somebody producing, even very consistently producing wonderful results, you may get into the feeling that he's flawless, that he's doing everything right. And when you are trying to photograph and everything is going south, then that means that you are incompetent and that you will never be a photographer. The reason why I'm sharing this is I want to say, if you look at the pictures, I think you will agree they are very good. But that
Yes.
doesn't mean that there wasn't a lot of difficult stuff happening. And then you get those wonderful pictures. But you have to get over the hardships and the mistakes and the problems and the chaos is all part of the process. So the reason I'm sharing this is if you are one of the photographers like me that think that if you are a professional, you should be perfect and everything should be smooth and without any hiccups. No, it's not so. It's just well hidden. You just show the pictures, you smile, and you pretend that everything went smooth and everybody is going to believe you.
Huh. If I may put it like that, many of the errors and mistakes that you kind of mentioned can be avoided by having a proper checkup before going to a photo shoot, before doing anything like that. For example, if you have your camera, you have to check your bag for the memory cards, you have to check your bag for the lenses, for the cleaning tools, for example, if you have them stored differently, the lens caps, the charger, and everything like that.
I'm assuming you are doing that.
Yes. I have myself a mental list, at least a mental one, because I kind of do that quite often. So I have the list, what tools do I have? What can I cross off? What can I check off? For example, when I go on holiday or work travel or everything like that, I have a special list for all the things that I have to carry with me, from the laptop and the chargers up to my documents and my peripherals, like yeah, extra batteries and everything like that, or another SD card in case one breaks down, everything like that. I keep lists, either mentally or physically even, to cross them off, check them off, and that kind of avoids those mistakes. It definitely does not avoid the mistakes of not getting pumpkins next to Halloween. That definitely is a different kind of story, a different kind of topic. But everything that relates to camera gear and equipment and like that,
Yeah.
it helps.
Actually, even the pumpkins could have been easily avoided if I've just got them earlier. And I knew that I need to get them earlier. I actually have some checklists and sometimes I'm using them, but they work, but they never save me from everything. There is always something that is missing from the checklist and that I'm going to forget at home. And yeah, if you are the type that can be organized like this, having a checklist, checking that everything is in place, then I'm very envious. One of my assistants is exactly like this. He's a very systematic person. And when we are photographing, I'm always losing my camera. And I'm always like, where is my camera? And he always knows.
Mm-hmm.
And he always tells me, it's on the stone over there. You have put it on the chair. It's in the bag. It's in the backpack. You have put it on that rock over there. And he is somehow able to track everything I'm doing. I'm very envious. I would really want to be able to do the same thing, but I'm not. Uh, I'm just a chaotic hyena. I'm running around. I'm losing my camera and making pictures.
I gotta say, I can relate to the fact that I also kind of just have stuff in my hand and then don't, and then it disappears somewhere. For example, the classic phone in the fridge because you're taking eggs out or milk out for the coffee. Not the eggs
Mhm.
for the coffee, but you know what I mean. And everything like that just keeps then disappearing. But when it comes to the camera and to the work, I'm fully concentrated on the fact where's my camera, where's my tripod, and everything like that. In case things do get a bit hasty, chaotic during the photo shoot because passerbys interact with one another, or the fursuiter interacts with another fursuiter and everything like that, and things just happen, then it gets complicated as well for me. But as long as everything kind of stays in the lane with the expected outcome and the expected, let's just say, interruptions, for example, the card not working properly or the tripod not being in the right place because the ground is uneven or anything like that, that's the issue that gets completely and directly fixed while it's appearing. While the issue is at hand, I can fix it. At least I hope so. When it comes to the flash is not firing. Okay, I just move up to the flash, check the flash. Is, for example, battery is offline or anything like that.
Yeah, but doesn't that kind of throw you out of the pace? Because this is what's happening to me. When I'm already nervous because some stuff happened, then flash not firing is going to just aggravate that feeling of anxiety.
I would kind of want to draw the comparison to my last weeks that I've been around without giving too much information here. But when there's an issue occurring, you can either think about the issue or just alleviate the issue right at hand. For example, if your camera is not working, you just have to, for example, see what could be the reason why the camera is not working.
Yeah, but of course I'm doing this. That's hardly surprising. What I mean is, I'm having people there and I'm not paying them. I usually invite them for a dinner afterwards, but they are helping me because they are friends and because they find it interesting. And I'm feeling extremely responsible for getting results because if they are helping me on their own accord, I feel I should deliver something. It would feel really bad for me to say, guys, I've completely messed up. Thank you for working with me for the whole evening. By the way, notice the comparison with the photographer from the start of the podcast. But for me, that would be horrible. Just telling them that I haven't achieved anything. So when I'm there and they are waiting for me to start photographing and things are not working, I'm super nervous.
It really depends on the relationship that you have to the person. If they are your friends or they just like to hang out and watch the process, whatever it may be, you can just tell them, okay, the photos were not well, the photos are not to my liking, I can't work with them, or the worst case, the memory card died down and the camera fell into the water and everything is gone. Let's hope this doesn't happen, but if it does happen, then you can't change the fact, you can't change the outcome. In that case,
I can't. But what would happen or could happen is that they would say, hey, I'm wasting my time here. Or wouldn't you say that this is a danger that kinda is there if you mess up?
it really depends on the person. It really depends on who your assistant is. If the assistant wants the photos and the photos are the only thing that they care about, of course, they would be very unhappy with the fact that you can't deliver anything. But if they're there because they find it interesting, as you said, they just like the fact that it's interesting for them to see how the process works and how what goes into the picture itself, then I don't think the time for them is wasted. If I were a
Yeah,
company,
that makes sense, I guess. They are often saying that they enjoy the socialization. So even if it did not work, then they would have good time with other people and they would be doing something interesting. But I'm still super anxious, and so it's not so much for me about whether I fix the issue or not. I very likely will fix it, and if it won't fix, then the world's not going to end. I'm just going to pack my stuff. It already happened to me that I've asked a friend to help me with some photography test. I've arrived and I've realized I don't have batteries. So I was taking 2 pictures with my phone and then we went to Starbucks. But I'm always feeling super anxious about disappointing people.
well, the worst part is that they waste their time. And the question is, how much
Mhm.
do they value their time? If, for example, this would happen during a wedding photo shoot or something that can't be reproduced, it would be much graver and much more, let's just say, anxiety inducing for me as well when I'm doing a wedding photo shoot, for example, and my camera dies during the photo shoot or my camera dies during the, let's just say, ceremony, for example, or the battery is simply just gone, then I would be much more panicky, but I would not or I would do my best to not let this show. I would try to compensate it somehow by,
It's
I don't
funny
know.
that this is not happening to me all that much. I mean, during paid photo shoots, is probably because when I'm doing paid photo shoots, I'm doing something that I'm very confident I can pull off. It's a routine. Whereas this kind of stuff, like with the pumpkins, it's still, I'm starting to understand what I'm doing, which is great. It feels wonderful, but I wouldn't say it's routine. By the way, I was doing another photo shoot 2 days ago. Exactly the same pumpkins. I had them stuffed in my fridge for 10 days, and I really wanted to get rid of them. And one of my patrons was kind enough to come with me, and I was expecting 2 more people that are going to help me, and they didn't. So in the end, I was doing both the assistant's jobs and the photographer's job. And I've realized that some things are not working as well as previously, even though it was basically the same photo shoot. I was doing some things differently, and I was like, this is not working because of these reasons. We have finished it. I think that the pictures are not bad, but it's still a little bit of an experiment. And this is why I'm usually not asking for money for it. Because if I can't guarantee that it's going to go smoothly, I don't dare to try.
I do have a kind of hard time understanding why this isn't routine for you. Because in theory, when you're doing FurCPhotos, you're doing FurCPhotos. Sometimes with a bit more of setup, sometimes a bit less setup. Sometimes it's night, sometimes it's day. Each require different preparations, different settings, different equipment and everything like that, of course. But in practice, you're going up. You know how FurCPhoto works, you know how the photo shoot should kind of end up, what the results you want to achieve are, kind of, and whether you're being paid for it or not, or whether the assistant is with you or not, in practice, it's still the same routine, isn't it?
Are you doing light setups?
I have done light setups. I don't typically bring them to conventions because of the travel and weight limits. But when it comes to my, what is it? Godox 8200 flash, if I'm not mistaken, and an old Metz flash, I can kind of bring them in tandem, but typically don't because it's too much of a hassle for me for the results that can be achieved, want to be achieved.
So you are using them actually?
I am.
And
But
it always works fine for you?
no, but if it doesn't, then I can just find another way around it. If the flash doesn't work, then I'll just move it around. And if it still doesn't work, for example, I do have one photo shoot, or had one photo shoot in the Landschaftspark Duisburg, if I'm not mistaken. What's it called? In Lapidou, where it was night. And I kind of don't like some of those outcomes and some of those pictures because the light did not bounce off as well as I was hoping to. But as long as the person that's, for example, with me that wants the results, that maybe even pays me for the photo shoot, is more or less not unhappy with it, I actually.
Yeah, but in this case, I'm doing the photo shoots for myself, so it's not so much about the person. Well, if the person is not satisfied with them, that it means that I am not satisfied with them because I'm the person. What I mean is that very often during a photo shoot with lights, when I'm photographing a far shooter in daylight, I am very confident that I know what I'm doing. I can imagine how the scene is going to work. I will tell him, stand like this, look in this direction. Okay, that doesn't work. Turn your head in the opposite direction. This works. I take a picture and it's done. With the lights, it very often happens to me that I set them up, I take a picture, and I'm like, okay, this doesn't work at all. So let's try to shuffle them around a little bit. And I have some idea why I'm shuffling them around. I know what I want to achieve. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work at the second time. And when I'm shuffling them around for the fifth time and it's still not working, and then I'm adding another light and it only makes it worse, and then I'm shutting it off, at that point I'm feeling very much not, it's very much not a routine. At that point, I'm prone to panicking, and this is why I'm not asking for money for this, because I want to be sure that I will deliver a smooth experience.
This kind of circles back to the fact that oneself is always one's biggest critic. Because, of course, you yourself are the one who thought of the photos and has a certain image in mind and tries to reproduce it. And if it doesn't work, of course, it's also kind of a fight against time because you can't just stand around there 5 hours with someone in fursuit and, for example, an unfitting shoe. They kind of would probably not like that.
This is exactly what I mean, but in this case, it's not so much about the result, it's about the process. The results are very, very often good, but I'm very unhappy about the fact that I make a setup and it doesn't work, and then I rearrange it and it doesn't work, and I rearrange it and it doesn't work. And at that point, when I was talking about people feeling incompetent, this is when I am feeling incompetent because, hey, I have this idea, I'm the photographer, I know what I'm doing, except I'm not. And this is at the point when I want to start taking money from people for this kind of photo shoots. I want to be sure that I can deliver the results without them having to watch me reshuffle everything 5 times before it finally works.
Yeah, I don't think that this is actually preventable because when humans do work, things can go sideways and things can go wrong. And the big professional, also said, let's do it again. Perhaps this is something that you, especially if it's just your free time and the people that just hang around with you because they like the process, maybe they would be up for it. Maybe they wouldn't mind doing it again to see if the process itself gets kind of streamlined, smoothed out and everything like that when you do it 3 or 4 times. Maybe with the same results in the end, but the practice will be with this more or less repetition. You know?
This is true. This is one thing that I have to say, that even if the photo shoot doesn't go nearly as smoothly as I was hoping, I'm almost always learning something, and very often it's something fundamental. And this is why I'm starting to feel that I'm actually getting a hang of it. And at this point, when I set it up, it very often works. And I'm very glad for that. And the only way to get into this is by trying. One fault that I have is that I very often feel that I know what's not going to work. And I'm not trying stuff that is pointless. And I've seen another photographer doing stuff that I could see that it's not going to work. And he has done it anyway, and it didn't work. But I guess that he's learned something from that. So, and sometimes you try something that shouldn't work. Sometimes I make a mistake, flashlight misfires, for example, and I look at the result and I'm like, wow, this is even better than what I was intending to do.
Yes.
So what would you say is the conclusion, Pinsel? Is there something you find interesting about what we have discussed?
To conclude this, I would say that even the professionals might mess up. Even the professionals might need a second or third attempt at completing what they intended to do. And it all boils down to how it's communicated. As long as everyone who's involved knows and feels the same about repeating it and doing it all over again, then it's completely fine and completely fair to do so. And in the end, it doesn't really matter when things go sideways during the project, just because it can be mitigated in most cases.
I guess I should be a little bit less uptight, because people keep telling me that it's okay if I fail, and it's very difficult for me to accept, but I will try to. Okay, I think that's all for today. I hope that it was interesting for our listeners. If you have a story like this, please leave it in the comments. And if you have any questions or suggestions about for what should we talk about next time, please leave it in the comments as well. We would be very excited to hear it. I am FurCPhoto.
And I'm Pinsel.
And we thank you very much for listening to this episode. See you again in 2 weeks.
See you around.